Hey guys, so today I'm going to be taking you through a really simple and easy tutorial for creating graphics for both Pinterest and your blog, which is going to help drive major traffic. I think graphics are a key element that every blog post where it's relevant should have, and they should also be something that you're definitely pushing on Pinterest because, as you know, I am a big fan of Pinterest and its incredible potential to drive traffic to your blog. So Canva is a free online program. It's kind of like a beginner's graphic design program, although it does have really advanced elements too. And although I'm a big Photoshop fan and I use Photoshop all the time for my graphics and for a lot of the things that I create for Pinterest and for my blog, I actually use Canva myself. Every once in a while, when there is a capability that's not accessible on Canva, I'll bump over to Photoshop, but I want to show you today how easy it is to create something totally custom. So the first thing I recommend doing if you don't really have an idea of where to start with your design is to search it on Pinterest. So right here you'll see I did a really simple search for blog graphics, and you'll see that a lot of posts come up about creating blog graphics, but if you scroll down you can see a lot of samples of how people create their graphics. So here's one example over here. Mine is actually kind of similar to this one right here. I personally prefer the actual photos because I just feel like it jumps out more. So go to Pinterest and get some inspo if you don't really know how to start. I'm going to show you exactly how I make mine. You may have seen them if you've visited my Pinterest. I'll actually show you really quick. So when you go to my boards and when you scroll over to Pineapple and Prosecco blog, you'll see a little bit of a mix of them. So this is the template that I use for my actual blog posts, and I like to push the text up to the top so the main view can be an image. And alternatively, for my blogging resources, what I'll typically do is I will use something that takes up your whole screen. So something that jumps out, bold text, all caps. So these are what my blogging resources look like. So I'm going to show you how to create both today. They're really both super simple. And like I said, I'm going to show you on Canva, but if there's something that you can't do, or if there's a font that you can't grab, you could always design that in Photoshop and import it as an image into Canva. I'm going to walk you through everything today. So I'm going to go over to Canva. This is the template I use for literally everything. So what I do is I will typically create a duplicate and I will just simply replace the photo. I'll put a new one in there and I'll put a new title and go from there. And it's super easy and done in 5 seconds. So once you create a template, you can do that yourself, but I'm going to show you how to create the actual template today. One element that I use a lot is the shape element. And so you can go right into shapes. And I always like to have my blog website on the bottom. The cool thing about Canva is that it doesn't have to be perfect. Like you could see my shape is running over the edges, but it doesn't matter because everything you see on the white is all that you're going to need. Canva also has a super handy center tool, which I love. Don't really need it for this, but when it comes to your text, it's really helpful. So I'm going to start out with a little black box at the bottom. I don't want it to kind of get in the way of everything else. And so in this black box, I'm going to go over to my text in Canva, and I'm just going to add a simple website address. And I'm going to go ahead. The font that I usually use is Montserrat. I think that's how you say it. I think it's a really nice, clean, bold font. And I'm going to turn it white and just drag it right down here. Another cool text feature is that you can play with your spacing. So sometimes I'll space my letters out a bit more. I'm actually going to change this to Montserrat Light. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and just drag it right down. Okay, so the first part of my graphic is done, and that was super easy. It took me like, 10 seconds? And so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an image. I actually have some images already inserted in here, so I'm going to grab one. This is going to be for my post about transitional sweaters for the fall season. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stretch out my picture. And as you can see, it automatically jumped right behind my text. But if for some reason yours doesn't, all you have to do is click on the picture. Mine's in front right now, so it's not giving me this option, but click on the picture, click on that arrange, and you could bring it forward or push it backwards. So it will go exactly where you want. It's kind of like, if you're familiar with Photoshop, it's just like working with layers. And so every little element that you add to your Canva design is a layer, and you can move your layers up, you can move them down, forward, back, and so on and so forth. And so my first two elements are complete. Next thing is I need a title for my blog post that jumps out to my readers. So I'm going to go ahead back over to elements, go back into shapes, and I am going to create a little rectangular box to put right at the top. As you can see, that center button is right there. If I was off, it will just kind of help me snap it right into place. And another thing I'm going to go ahead and add just for a little details, I'm going to go into the lines tab and I'm going to add a line. So you can adjust your lines just as you can adjust your shapes. If you want your line to be thinner, all you have to do is shrink it down, and then you can manipulate it from there. So I'm going to go ahead, pop this in the middle. I'm going to change its color to a nice pink. You can click on document colors and kind of manipulate from there and play around. I kind of like a peachy pink. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right in the middle. That just kind of adds a little something. It's totally not necessary, but I feel like just a little different from just putting the text there. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my subheading. So I'm going to go ahead, my favorite transitional sweaters this season. And I'm going to go ahead and change the font. I really like Bodoni for the titles, and I usually make it italic. You can also here play around with the spacing. If you feel like your lines are too close together, just simply go into the spacing. Let me drag this down so you could see what I mean. Go into the spacing and you can adjust your line height. So you could have it really close together, you could have it really far apart. And so I usually keep mine as is. Sometimes I'll shrink it a little bit. And that's it. That's exactly how I create my graphics for my Pinterest or for my blog. And so I'm going to go ahead, pop back and show you how to create one more type of graphic. And these are the graphics I usually use for my blogging resource library. It's very similar. It's just a different design aspect. I'm not going to walk you through from the very beginning, but I'm just going to kind of show you the elements. So here I use a shape as well. I actually pulled in my logo from my website, which you can certainly do as well. And then I put my website down here. I put a photo in the back just as I did. And the one different element that I used here, which I do for a lot of my designs, is you can go into shapes, you can insert your shape, and then you can play with the opacity, which is this button right here. So transparency, opacity, they're the same thing. And you can kind of drag until you see something that you like. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of a transparent background in front of my photo. For this case, I really don't need it, but I just wanted to show you that you can certainly do that as an overlay. So from here, I just added text as I did in the last one. I think this is Montserrat bold. Yeah, it is. And I did it all caps. I added a little logo, which is actually a photo. And so that's another sample. So many different ways to create stuff. I'm going to show you really quickly right now if you run into a little bit of a roadblock and you can't find a certain font or a graphic that you really want to use that's not on Canva. The only thing with Canva is, although it's free and has a ton of capabilities, it does limit you with some of the fonts. You have a ton of options, but maybe there's something that you use on your blog that you want to kind of maintain the similarity. And so if that's the case, you could do it in PowerPoint. I recommend Photoshop if you have it, just because the resolution is usually better. And so I'm going to go ahead and pop into Photoshop. I'm just going to start with a regular background. And let's say I wanted to make part of my blog title like a script. I'm going to go ahead into a font that I really like. If anything, make the text bigger, because as you shrink it, the quality will stay the same. But sometimes when you enlarge a font that's too small, the quality can get a little blurry. This won't happen if you're doing it on Photoshop. But if you don't have Photoshop and you're making a little text like this and saving it as a photo from PowerPoint, your text, if it's too small and you're enlarging it, it might get a little fuzzy. So I'm gonna go ahead and just make it 40. I'm going to remove my background. And you don't have to have like the perfect size canvas. If you want, you can go ahead and crop it down, but this is going to be transparent and it's going to show up right in your Canva as is. So I'll show you what I mean. So you're going to do export, quick export as PNG, which is basically just exporting it as an image. I'm going to just save it to my desktop. I'll call it the season so I know how to find it. And I'm going to pop right back into my Canva, and I'm going to go to uploads, upload my own image. I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to bring this new graphic in. I'm going to click on my image. I'm going to enlarge it a bit, and as you can see, since I did it in Photoshop, it stayed the same, and I am going to just add it in right there. And so this is a font that I knew was not available in Canva, but I really wanted to use it anyway, so there's a really quick fix to get around that. And so that's my finished product. You can download it. I'm going to just download this page, and Canva will prepare your design. It usually takes, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds at most. And then you have a high-res picture that you can insert into any blog post or into a Pinterest pin. And so that's what the final product looks like. Like I said, super easy, lots of capabilities. You don't have to be a graphic designer or an expert to learn how to do this. And that's pretty much it. So if you guys have questions, as always, leave them below. If you are not yet a member of the Blogging Resource Library, make sure that you join. If you're not a member of the PNP Community Facebook group for bloggers, make sure you join, and I'll talk to you guys soon.